episode of the MD Investor channel where we talk about setting goals, achieving goals, taking personal responsibility for our finances by educating ourselves and our children so we can finally break the cycle of generational poverty. On YouTube, it's MD Investor. On Instagram, MD Investor One. Let your friends and family and colleagues know that this is the place where we are getting our financial education, our personal financial education, and we are passionate and we are serious about breaking the cycle of generational poverty. New video today, guys. Today's topic is, where is your fruit tree? Where is your fruit tree? Before we get into it, definitely subscribe, send the link to anyone you think could benefit from the information, and let's get into it. Where is your fruit tree? I got this idea from going apple picking. We'll have to go apple picking in the fall, August, September, October. You go and it's a whole nice day with the family. Sometimes the church, we do it together. You have apple pie, then the turkey leg and music and fun for the kids and the whole family. And I got to thinking. Here we are in the beautiful farm, beautiful orchard, all these trees, and you're sitting there eating, and you're like, good apple, love Macintosh apples. Then you're like, somebody planted this tree. I don't know when, but somebody planted this apple tree some years ago, and here we are reaping the fruits thereof. Okay? Reaping the fruit there. We're going to read a couple of Bible verses. But I said apple, but my favorite fruit is mango. Love mango. It could be anything, tangerine, oranges. The point is, where is your fruit tree? Let's go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 11. It said, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself, upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself. Just remember that part. Whose seed was in itself, after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. Tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself. Tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself. When God created the creation, it was a mature creation, right? He didn't put apple seeds on the earth. There was no apple seed in the garden. There was no orange seed. There was an apple tree. It was a mature creation. It was a mango tree. There was no acorn, but it was an oak tree. So it was a mature creation. And then after that, the cycle continued. The tree yielded the fruit, and the fruit had to be planted, and so the cycle continues. In Deuteronomy it said, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth. So God created the tree that yielded the fruit, and in the fruit was the seed. He giveth the power to get wealth, it says in Deuteronomy. But just because God gives you the power to get wealth does not mean it will happen, because you have to do something, right? Ecclesiastes says, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. We know about that, right? Time to be born, a time to die, right? A time to come together and a time to be apart, and a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. In other words, a time to reap. There's a time to plant and there's a time to reap. So just because God gives you the power to get wealth, there's a responsibility that we have. Okay? You can't look for a harvest and you haven't planted. Every farmer knows that, right? What are you looking for? You put nothing in the ground, you didn't water, you didn't fertilize, you didn't do anything. Okay? Even in spiritual matter, it says one planted, one watered, but God gives the increase. So we have a part to play. Okay? So we're living right now in a microwave generation. Because from the scripture it says a time to plant and a time to reap. In between planting and harvest, there's a time of waiting. Right? But we living right now in a microwave generation, right? You want it to be instantaneous, right? 2 minutes, you press it. Hope it's not taking too long, because we want it right away. And that mentality is affecting a lot of us financially, right? Because we're looking to get it quick, and we're looking to get it right now. You think of it almost like a lottery mentality. No, I'm not going to save. I'm not going to budget. I'm not going to invest. I'm just looking to hit the jackpot, right? Maybe my son will be 7 foot tall and he'll get an NBA contract. Maybe he'll make it to the NFL. Maybe I'll hit the lottery and get $200 million. But you see, that is a not smart way to think, right? Because the way to think is, I'm going to plant. So therefore, I have something to reap in years to come. Our greatest wealth building tool is our income. Your greatest wealth building tool is your income. See, it's not magical, it's not outlandish, but it is true. Our greatest wealth building tool is our income. And a lot of us waste it. Think about it. A lot of us waste it instead of harnessing the true power that it is. Let's go look at this example here. Okay, now look, this is a dividend calculator. And it's going to kind of shows you what I'm talking about. If you guys haven't played around with a dividend calculator, you definitely should. Here is a portfolio. The portfolio type. So imagine you have a lot of investment there. Taxable account. The distribution is quarterly, right? Most of these companies pay dividend every quarter. Dividend reinvestment plan. That's what the DRIP stands for. We're starting with nothing. We're starting with absolutely nothing. Okay, we're starting with zero, and we're contributing $1,200 per year, $100 a month, and this is a dividend tax rate we're in. The annual yield of our portfolio is 5%, and every year our dividends will increase about 7%. Like, there are lots of solid companies that do that, and the appreciation of our underlying assets is going to grow by 3%. I put 50 years here for the time frame, but let's take a look. So in year one, where you begin, you have no principal. I guess the 1,200. I guess we're assuming they put that toward the end of the year. This is your yield. So no dividends in the first year. In reality, if you're putting $100 a month every month, you begin to get dividends as you go. But that's fine. For the example, let's go with this. The second year, we put our 1,200. You see, so every year we're contributing $1,200. We're not changing. Every year, $1,200. The second year, we get $65.50 in dividends. We move on to the third year, we get $145. You see, the dividend is growing year after year. And the reason why it's growing is because we are putting in our money regularly. Example, basically, we're putting our seed in the ground, and we're getting dividend. And every year, the dividends are increasing 7% from the previous year. So you see the dividends begin to grow. Initially, it's very slow, right? You go for the first decade, After 10 years, you're only making $1,500 per year. Definitely not enough to live off. You go on to about, let's go on to year 15. You're at almost $5,000 a year in dividends. Still nothing magical. You get to about year 20, and you're up to $16,000 a year in dividends. That's something, right? That's over $1,000 a month in dividends. That's something. What you're going to begin to notice that is the velocity is increasing, right? It took you 10 years to get to $1,500 in dividends. And the next 10 years, you went from 1,500 to almost 16,000. The rate of growth is increasing. So what you want to imagine in your head is a snowball rolling down a hill. Initially, it's very small, but as it begins to go down the mountain, it begins to pick up snow and begin to turn into something large, in fact, an avalanche. So after 25 years, we are getting $67,000 per year in annual dividends. Some people work. Some people work all year to get that, and your money is doing that for you. So essentially, if you made $65,000 a year, essentially you'd be able to stay home for a year, and your money is working for you. You go on to year 30, and now you're getting $378,000 in dividends. You go on to year 40, and let's see where you are. You're now getting, let's back up a little. Year 30, you're at $378,000 in dividends. At about year 33, you've crossed the $1 million mark in terms of annual dividends. And you see, now look at the rate now. From 33 to 34 years, you've made almost $700,000 in dividends. From the year 34 to year 35, you made over $1 million in dividends. And so it goes. After 40 years, you're making $59 million in dividends. These numbers are astronomical, and they're insane. And they're frankly unbelievable. After 45 years, you're making $2.6 billion in dividends. I have known no one that has ever done this who has told me I can attest to it. I'm going through this. All I'm doing is using the dividend calculator, plugging numbers in, and seeing what it's showing me. It's absolutely astronomical. After 50 years, you have $390 billion. This is more money than Jeff Bezos has. It's unbelievable. But none of this will happen without your income, right? Because if you don't have $1,200 every month, you won't $1,200 every year to invest. You won't be able to achieve this. So that's what I mean, that your income is the most powerful wealth building tool that you have. You can either waste it, okay, and splurge and have nothing to show for it, or you can harness the power of it, okay? Let's get back to the example of the apple tree. We started off talking about the apple tree, correct? How when you go apple picking, you see all these trees, and you see basically you're in an orchard, and you see all these trees. And you're like, wow, somebody planted this tree many, many years ago, and here we are, all these families eating apples, right? Because when you go apple picking, it's not just you, there are a lot of people there. And it's enough for all of us. And how can this be? Now imagine this, right? Let's imagine this for a second. Imagine that your job, instead of paying you in dollars, paid you in apples. Okay? So now, instead of making $2,000 every 2 weeks, you get 2,000 apples. Okay? Now, you get your 2,000 apples, and what a lot of us have been doing is this. We got your 2,000 apples, and you take 500 of the apples and pay your rent or your mortgage. You take maybe another 100 of the apples, and you pay your utilities. You take maybe another 100 apples, you pay your cable. You take another 100 apples, you pay your cell phone. And you take another 100 apples, then you maybe go out to dinner, on and on and on, right? And the all the apples are used up, and then you work another 2 weeks, and you get paid again, and this cycle continues. You have done nothing for yourself. You haven't paid yourself. You haven't invested anything. You have done nothing, but you have paid all your bills. Okay? This is what we call living check to check. Now, imagine if you getting paid your 2,000 apples and you take 20% of your 2,000 apples, which would be 400 apples. You take 400 apples, cut them open, take out the seeds, and begin to plant. Now, we know that it takes a long time for apple trees to grow and to be able to grow fruit, right? When I did a video on do you have oxen, we said, when you first begin to have oxen, you can't put all your weight on it. You can't depend on it because they're too young, they're too small, they're not trained enough, right? All right. If you're only getting $10 in dividends, you can't quit your job. But if you're getting $10,000 a month, maybe you can quit your job. Okay. So now let's get back to our story. So you get paid 2,000 apples. You take 20% or 400 apples, cut them open, take the seed, and begin to plant. Water them, fertilize them. God give the sunshine, and you keep doing that, right? Every time you get paid, you take 400 apples or 20%, take the seed, and you put them in the ground, and you cover them with dirt, and you put the fertilizer, and you water them, and you continue to do that, right? It won't be long before you begin to have little baby apple trees, and after a while, you're going to have some fruit. Eventually, what's going to happen after about 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, as we see on this dividend compound annual dividend table, is the massive growth. Because just remember, in one apple, I don't know how many apple seeds there are in one apple, but it's probably, I don't know, maybe about 10, 15. Those could be 10, 15 trees. On each tree, how many apples are there in each tree? All right, any of you who have been apple picking. On one tree, you could have, probably 500 apples. And then on each of one of those apples, there's another maybe 10, 15 seeds. So the numbers become astronomical very quickly, as we see here on this annual dividend compound table. It becomes astronomical, but the key is you have to start, right? You can go 40 years working and take all your apples and pay your bills and have nothing to show for it. Or you can begin to keep some of those apples and pay yourself, right? One of the great books I read is called The Richest Man in Babylon. And one of the things I remember from that book, it said, a part of everything I earn is mine to keep. I love that. A part of everything I earn is mine to keep, which means that you have to keep a little for yourself and invest it and to grow it, guys. So, guys, I hope this was very motivational to you. It was definitely motivational to me. This is how we begin to break the cycle of generational poverty, okay? By stopping the bad habits, by starting good habits, by getting motivated, and by teaching our children so we can break the cycle of generational poverty. This is the MD Investor Guide. If there's people out there you think could benefit from this content, let them know about MD Investor. You can subscribe on YouTube at MD Investor and on Instagram it's MD Investor 1. And remember to command your money to grow, and I will see you on the next one.